What's up, everybody? All right. So, as I get through my transition back in 2018, man, it seems like it's been a while. That's 7 years ago. But not much has changed since then, and I'll keep you all updated if there's anything that major changes to FAA, but they haven't really been, they're not the type of institution that changes very much. Um, they've been working on changes for the last 40 years or plus, and everything still remains kind of the same. They're trying to fix things more towards the practical experience, which is better. However, a lot of the content is there. Or putting the more focus on certain type of content as far as getting away from the older things on the older aircraft. And it sounds all good, but not much has changed. You'll see a lot of people talk about changes, this and that, and uh, as that change happened through, when I first started, it hasn't really changed much on the static on the study habits. It is getting harder to um, get some of the questions because the FAA, doesn't publicly put out the questions and answers like it used to. However, with your help and of anybody that help out there that can provide some feedback would be super awesome. And however, we still teach the concepts, and that's one of the things that the military does is help teach you concepts, and so you can understand some of the systems that you work with. Now, one of the things I hate more is wasting my time on things that I know I probably won't utilize. As I was studying for the general, there's components on there that uh, testing the tension of fabric on an aircraft. And that stuff is not available unless you're going to be working on old warbirds in a museum. We don't have that anymore. We have, composites and sheet metal, nowadays still flying around. And nothing wrong with it. It's just that if I'm going to be working for the airlines or if I'm going to be working on a business jet, I want to learn about things that I can apply to my job. And and that's what I want to do. But if they're, FAA is hardcore, still leaving it in there. And uh, you don't see it too much on testing as much, but you might see a couple questions. And that really grinds my gears, as Peter would say on Family Guy. It really grinds my gears. And that's one of the things that grinds my gears is learning things that it's not going to be on the test or very unlikely it's going to be on it. A very small percentage. And these academia guys want to hit it hard, like you got to learn all this stuff. And I'm more about let's get whatever, let me exhaust my energy on things that are going to matter and less on the things that don't matter. For example, learning about fabric on an aircraft. And those part of the exams, but you're not going to see a lot of it online or on your exams. So what we do is cut through the BS, get the information that you need, and we're going to teach you the contents that you do need, concepts of your flight, the lubrication systems, what the auto system is on an engine cycle. It's these things are going to be super important, right? So as I'm going through my transition is what things do I need to know, what things I don't need to know, and sometimes our leadership when we're going through this transition, they talk about oh, go to college, get these done, get this done, this get you your bachelor's, it'll set you up, and a lot of us, we want to continue aviation, and really you got to think about what you're going to do, right? If you're going to use aviation as a stepping stone to get into, say, until you get your degree, you're going to use your GI benefits, and and then you can just use aviation as a stepping stone, right? why not start off in the higher rung ladders of pay or position or ranks to really start off going fast, right? So, and that's okay. I mean, our leadership, haven't been on the civilian side, right? Unless, prior to the army or the military, right? So if what I want to do here in this video is talk to you about what's really important in aviation maintenance and what's going to be super credential. And a lot of people, I get a lot of, discussions with guys who start off with their degrees or they want to get degrees. And I'm not bashing that, but I always say start off with getting your AMP. And the reason is for a couple of things. One, it's going to help you on the outside. That's the most important. You cannot sign off jobs, kind of like in the military. You got jobs to sign off. You can't sign off jobs with your degree, with your bachelor's degree, right? So, yes, you got your experience and that helps. You get your project management degree. That's awesome. And I would say continue to do those things. However, if you want to continue with aviation maintenance, which a lot of guys aspire to continue to have leadership roles, to do all these things, but then once it starts coming within a year to 6 months, we're like, oh man, I've been so busy with the military stuff that I didn't do this. So I'm gonna go to the military. I'm gonna get work with this contractor. I'm gonna go work in this aviation maintenance position. And nothing wrong with that. It's just that I'm trying to help you skip a couple of positions and really optimize getting your degree, getting your AMP, getting that certain position, and I want you to skip steps. Okay, I'm all about on the fast track. Yes, it's good to learn and bust your butt doing all these things to learn the lower ranks, but we already did that as aircraft mechanics. I've already did that for a very long time, learning and busting, my back on wheel wells in a F-16 and did all the shit jobs for the longest time. So when you go on the outside, I don't want to be doing those things. I want to get back to the meats and potatoes of learning certain aircraft, and I have no problems getting dirty. I still enjoy getting dirty. Doing things around the house. I love, building things. Right now, I gotta go. I'm waiting for my alternator for my car to come in. I can't wait to break into it, right? Because, even learning, everybody's like, yeah, just get a normal alternator, right? Or just get a normal thing. No, there's things that I made modifications to this car, and I want to learn. I, taught myself the importance of a higher amperage, alternator. Why? Because I got it all from the military, right? But learning stuff in the aircraft, that's all good. And then what I've also learned when I went from being a crew chief to a propulsion guy is I didn't want to learn, I had this huge argument with the supervisor about going to tech school. I was like, I already did all the technical things. I know the ins and outs of, F-16 engine. I want to learn specifically on a TF-34 engine. But in tech school, they don't have that engine for tech school. And went back and forth, back and forth. I learned a lot more, learning from the engines guys on the flight line and the manual of all the theories of operation that GE has. What is every part? What's the thing? I want to just get cut through the BS of tech school, to the hassle of tech school, the expenses of tech school, and just learn what I need to learn for my job. So, and if I had to learn the book stuff, that's fine. I'll learn it. Especially when it relates to my job. I love doing that. So when I talk to you about getting your AMP, there's going to be a couple benefits that goes with it. Okay. So one of the benefits starting off with your AMP, right? You can sign off jobs with your AMP. You can sign off your own, legally you can sign off jobs, right? With your bachelor's degree, you can't do that. So with AMP, you can sign off your work, and then you usually start off in higher pay. right? You're not at the bottom rung. You're not a repairman. You're not using a repairman certificate and stuff like that. And the military, if you're still in the military, they'll pay for those courses. If you come to our school, all you need to do is learn the concepts, study, and get to testing, right? And if you continue your aviation maintenance, a lot of universities will take your A&P and add, credits. Some of you just jumped off. You just missed the most important part. Is that if you want to continue your education, especially with in aviation maintenance, a lot of times like 2 years worth of school is just cut off. There's some universities I spoke to, some of the presidents at a university like Spartan, they had a manager's position or degree path where a lot of they'll take your A&P and then pretty much half your credits are gone, or not credits, but are used towards your degree plan. And to me, that's freaking awesome. The more that I can knock off my school, I'll do it. So if certificates can knock that off, cool. Less time being in class, which I'm just not a big person on sitting in class, just listening to the instructor, and then that's it. And then all he's gonna talk about is that, and he don't really care. So we're learning this stuff, right? So, and I know some online classes are like that. And I don't, it's not, yeah, I get the credit one step closer to my degree. I just 4 year degrees is not my thing, but even though I am doing it, it's just kind of boring and just no connection, right? Uh, and I know the teachers care and they trying to do their job. But anyways, it's just that if I can minimize that, I like to start off with my A&P, knock out some classes, jumping into, and the degree plan that I have is my degree plan from the A&P is not going to really help. So let's just knock out this project management degree through Embry-Riddle, and then because I know that's going to help me, especially with my background. But I know like Spartan, who else? I think Embry-Riddle can use your, and then correct me if I'm wrong on here in the comments so everybody else can see. And if you have one, comment below on what schools also can help you. Or other schools. There was Spartan. I want to say there's another, but comment below if you know a school that takes your A&P cert and applies it to more credits. That way we can share it with the community. And I love to post it in my community as well. So the most important credential is your A&P in aviation maintenance. Okay. If you plan to get in aviation maintenance, even if it's just to um, use it as your stepping stone for a couple of years as you get through school and things like that, do that. It'll help you start off instead of working from the bottom. It gets you skip a couple of positions because one, you get your experience, and then you get your A&P. Boom, you skip a few pay scales levels. Okay, so that helps. Also, if you want to continue your degree, get that. So as you explore your options, getting your A&P is going to also, number two, going to help you open up more opportunities, right? They're looking for A&Ps. They need certified. A lot of locations, especially the ones that pay well, they need A&Ps. Or sometimes a repairman certificate is not even enough. So if you want to, it opens up better windows, right? Better opportunities. Okay, so get your A&P and have these windows because as soon as you get you apply somewhere, one of the first things they're going to ask you, or your paperwork is going to scan through, is if you have your A&P. And if you don't have it, you're just going to make it more difficult for yourself. All right, so there's places out there that you don't need to. As long as you have some kind of mechanical experience, they're going to take you. And I know places like that, but they don't pay very well. And some people call it like it's like freaking slaves. So that's one of the things where it's gonna help you, right? So get your AMP, open those better windows, move faster through your ranks, so that way you can um, get paid more. I mean, that's what's really important, right? And I like to, yeah, move up and have a bigger impact. We all want to have a bigger impact in aviation, right? I have a little bit of different, like I want to make sure you guys get your AMP. That's why I'm talking about it, right? So um, getting the AMP, I've seen people just getting paid more. I'm seeing them right now on my Facebook. Oh, I just got this new truck and new car. I was like, hey, that's awesome. That I had a little bit of impact in their life to help them cut through the BS. And I bet you I'll go back to them and ask them, hey, have you done any fabric tension test on the aircraft that you do? Probably not. So, um, getting reached out to some of the guys from Lockheed who want to just knock out their AMP, and it sets them up for great futures. So I'm going to do this. So exploring my options here. Okay, and let's do this. Okay. Uh, the first thing is like what people ask is, where do I get my AMP? Right? You can go to a Part 147 school, take your 12 months, 20, 18 months, 24 months, and it seems like they're trying to cut down on time because they're starting to realize that a lot of the stuff is BS. A lot of the stuff you're studying is BS, right? They want to get to the meats and potatoes, and that's what I love. Get to the meats and potatoes. So I'm going to learn what's going to be on the test, especially, and then knock that out. Like I said, you can't sign off jobs with your degree. Okay, so I've talked to there's all types of schools, just like I mentioned the 12, 18, 24 months, and some people can do the prep schools. There's 2 weeks, there's 12 days, there's 4 weeks, there's 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And what I'm learning is some of these longer schools is they're trying to just fill the timeline to meet the requirements for SkillBridge or fill the VA things. So, um, but what I've noticed is that there's people who a lot of our students really can knock out their whole exams, get their certificate in 10 to 12 days. 12 days is about average. Okay, it's rare that we have people coming on Monday. And the guys who are complaining is really the people who are struggling, and it's very few, and or they want to be me to take it easy on them. And the way I see it is, and I don't have companies reach out to me and say, hey man, you should do this for 3 weeks, right? But if we do it for 3 weeks, a guy will take 3 weeks. But if I tell you get this done in 2 weeks, they will do it in 2 weeks, and the majority of them do. So it's, yeah, you can take your time, but a lot of the guys are passing just doing it in 2 weeks. So, and it's proven. This is nothing different. And then it's proven, and I'm making it better. Guys' scores are getting better, and like, why would I change that? Why would I make it longer, right? It's not. I mean, I'd love to hang out with you, but it's just gonna take another week longer, and I prefer the 2 week cycle, in my opinion. I just want to knock it out, get it done, go back home, and get it off my shoulders, right? And that's usually what students are like, is they just, hey, I got 2 weeks, I need to get this done. Employers love it, or most employers love it because they get their guy back in 2 weeks with an A&P, and um, so the 3 weeks, I see it more with people who are complaining about like, oh, I need to know all this stuff. It's like, cool, and we even try to do a better job of that. It's like, hey, you're not going to know everything about general aviation. We're not going to go into this very fine, granular details of how a system works. We're going to teach you the concepts and what's most likely to be on your test, and that's it. So some academia hates that, and I guess it's because we're taking away their students. But I'm trying to, but there's a sector of students a section of students who don't like school, they don't want to be in there. They just want to get in and get out, And there's some guys who do get a degree, and I'm hoping to help colleges identify those guys and then be like, hey, dude, this is why I want you to have, I want you to listen to this video, not to not go to college. It's just in a sequence. I want you to go to get your degree, get your AMP, then go to college. The reason I say that is, this is more specific to the people who want to stay in aviation or even stay and get your footstep in, because the cool programs are, I think they also stepped away or they expanded it a little more, something outside of your AFSC or MOS. Some cool programs that allows you to get it outside of your MOS or your jobs, specialty. So I'm not sure what it is now, but uh, but before it was on your job specialty. And I highly recommend getting using the funds that are allotted to you, allocated to you, to go get your certificates. All right. So, like I said, I've gone to uh, Pima, and I've gone to TCC, vastly different programs. And I've gone to TCC, and they're more open to collaborating with us, and that's been fun. The guy has been super busy, and trying to work with us to set up a program out there in Tarrant County Community College, and they have a great program out there. Love walking through their facility, and the guy that runs it, the director there, Philip, is super awesome, and he's hardcore about his. He's very hard. This is the difference, at least, and the conversations and what type of conversations is that, you know, people was more about the competition of keeping us out. And then there was the guys at TCC like more collaborative, like, hey, we have a serious problem here. Let's, let's all work together. And that's what I like. That's the gist that I got and the several communications that I've had with it. And it just shows their true intentions of fixing a problem and helping out guys. And if I can add a value to that, I'm more than happy to do so. I just didn't get that sense coming from Pima. They were the only organization that was kind of hard. I mean, some of the instructors and the DMEs were helpful that were working out there, but the leadership wasn't even willing to have a conversation. So, yeah, there's a little bit of bash on them, uh, but it was just my experience with them. The Army base up north were very super helpful, helping me get it started, helping me with yeah, just getting us lifted, because they were in fear of the program getting shut down, and ultimately not, because John up there was super awesome, and he was hardcore about and the importance of this program. So as much as I could do to help him out, and I'm super grateful for um, uh, his guiding me through the AMP prep course. So but he has a 3 week or 4 week course. If you're in the Army, especially Army National Guard, uh, they have a great, program out there, because some of their helicopters, I believe, the Lakotas, have some FAA certificated components that requires FAA soldiers or soldiers to have their FAA airframe license so they can sign this stuff off. So if you're interested, reach out to me. I can guide you on that and get you connected with him. Super awesome guy. John's super awesome, and well-deserved retirement. He knocked that out, and now is working as a civilian, and the Army sees him as a super valuable asset to keep him there and running the program, because I see too many times a program will go away because the person who stood it up, the heart of the program is gone, and a lot of times a person who doesn't have that heart is just filling up a role, doesn't care if it dies or not. But I know John fight a lot to keep that program going. But uh, going back to the types, right? He had a 4 week, I had a 2 week. I've seen 5 weeks at another college, and I've seen six. I think the longest one I've seen is 6 to 8 weeks. So there's options out there, different types. Best what suits you and stuff like that, and what type of time is allocated to you. Okay. So to me, school sucks. I prefer to be in there as least as amount of possible. And but if you want to go through a whole like course, 12 months, really get into the details, get really granular, yeah, go for it, man. 12 months. Just make sure you get your AMP at the end of all. Okay. Just for me, it was either the 2 week. Well, I didn't even know the 2 week was an option. I just had to do a bunch of research. So, um, and you really don't have to do a prep course. You don't have to do a crash course. You can go to my school and just do it yourself at your own pace, right? Just remember that I was reading a Facebook post about a guy who let his exams lapse for over 24 months. And if you take a test, your timer starts. So you have to have a certificate, and within 24 months. That means your writtens and your orals and practicals done. So that way you can close that timer. And if you don't do it if you don't do it, you don't get your certificate and you already took the exams, then all that becomes voided after 24 months. So be mindful of that. And extra note, there was an argument, not an argument, a little debate there, or one guy had mentioned that if your tickets get voided, they don't, and also your tickets, your FAA Form 8610-2s do not expire. Okay, just to let you know that. So, like I said, there's a lot better ways to transition. Like I said, get your A&P. Even if you're going to use aviation maintenance as a stepping stone, get your A&P. And then if you want to pursue your degree, a lot of degrees, especially in aviation maintenance, uh, gets transferred into that degree, and you just minimize a bunch of time. So, and to me, like I said, not a big fan of school, but if I need to do it, I'll do it, even though I am in school. But the A&P does help knock out a bunch of your classes. One of the things I hear all the time reading the question is, why didn't we need to go to school if we already have the experience and skills already? Everybody has to do it. And FAA, aviation is a serious business. It's a serious job. And you testing solidifies your skills. FAA wants to test your knowledge on aviation, right? Especially the hands-on. That's why you got the orals and practicals. They want to make sure you can go, you can learn stuff off memory, off the top of your head, or, studying and doing your computer orals. I think it's a good system because I just think that aviation is a serious business. Yeah, you have it already, but you also know it, the concepts. It's super important to know the concepts. And yeah, I do believe in that because like the course is free, so it's not like I'm making money off it, and I'm not. So, uh, but I think the testing is super important, right? Like we want people to test for their, we want them to have uh, instructions the formal way when you do a driver's test, right? And so they can understand if we're going to have signs and certain rules and regulations, we need to make sure that people know what a stop sign is or what the red, yellow, and green light means, when to turn, because I'm teaching my younger teenagers here in the family that uh, you need to get prepared. We don't need freaking butt heads out in the streets, right? So that's super important. Um, and improves the safety of everybody on the road. So, all right. So, doing all this, like being on on this video, it's really helps me to make an impact in the guys who are serving. And I hear all the chit chatter uh, on the flight line, like, hey, this is really, and I see it once in a while. I'll see something like, man, this is not real. Why don't they call me back? Blah, blah, blah. And it's not so much that it's not real. It's just kind of like, what are they reading into? What's going on? Like, sometimes I don't know what the resume is or what's written on there, but it's maybe a vibe that you give off, and you need to figure that out. Is if somebody's going to pay, 30, 40, 50, $60 an hour for somebody and work on an aircraft that's going to be super important, like their service is super important. And there's companies like that. Like they work with VIPs. They need people who are well-rounded. So, and I see all the time guys, upset. To me, I'm the more the type like I want to get feedback. Don't give me the woo woo stuff like what is it that I'm not doing? It's like, oh, the soft generation tutoring and coaching. Me, I want to know like what am I not doing? Yeah, I know I'm doing great over here. I know how to do these things, but what do I need to learn? What's my body language? What's my tone? Uh, what am I doing terrible in these meetings? When I go talk to, director of maintenance, build a relationship. And I was telling somebody about this, like I've always been about trying to set myself up to minimize objections, right? And when there's challenging questions, that I'm prepared for it, right? Either I know from experience things I need to work on, or learning because guys, if you want to minimize that, think about the companies where you work for and get in contact, not with yes, get in contact with the recruiters, but also get in contact with the director of maintenance, who's running the floor. Because ultimately you're going to be talking to him. A lot of the times you're going to be talking to him, and if you talk to them, build that relationship with him, because he's the one feeling the pain of like, hey, I need technicians, not the HR people, not the recruiters, right? Because if you go straight to the director of maintenance or whoever or the manager that's needing people and they like you, then he's gonna push HR and the recruiters to do their jobs, do the right thing, whatever corporate says or the business SOP to get you hired. Okay, if they like you, they like you. Okay, so giving this advice is going to help you kind of skip all that. So that's why go to networking events, speak to the director of maintenance. They're usually on LinkedIn. Get a hold of them. Hey, or hey, can I come in a couple of hours or an hour, shadow you? And a lot of times they do. So take their advice, join, these associations. Like one thing, join the, avionics association. Avionics, electronics, I think is AEA. I'll put it on the thing. Um, Join those associations, and they're gonna see that you're serious business with this. Don't go off like, oh, I've done 20 years of F-16, mechanical experience, and I've done this. Yeah, that's cool, but are you expanding your knowledge? Are you learning the new stuff that's out there? And yeah, you do got a network. Unfortunately, you do got a network. So uh, if you're looking for a specific job, even better, write down all the employers you want to work for and the positions you want to work for, and talk about, hey, you know, what's going to get me here? What's going to get me to work on your floor? Find that out. Get answers that way. Okay. So it's not just about the prep school, prep course getting you started on your AMP, but also like as I talk to more employers and more director of maintenance, and they love what I do, but I also pick their brain on the mistakes and stuff. I got another video coming out today, tomorrow, about a guy who runs the floor and what he sees on the floor from military guys. So that's one of my questions I ask, and I'm gonna continue to have more. And if you're one of those guys that want to provide that experience or provide that insights, let's talk. So um, get your AMP. So we're gonna wrap this up. So with get your AMP, then your degree. Okay, the most important credential in aviation maintenance is your AMP. Okay, get your degree later if you want, and depending on how far you want to go and where you want to go, what type of position, or like little sector is. Hang on one second. Is then you can get your IA, but just get that 1-2 punch done first. That way you can continue to accelerate. So there's tons of great opportunities out there, and networking is going to help you get there. So this is hopefully this was valuable. Hopefully that the most important thing you got out of all this is get your AMP, then work on your degree. You can start teach yourself how to get your AMP for free. Just join my school program. If you want the link, comment below, and or message me is probably gonna be the best, and I can help you get started on your AMP. All right, it's free. Got all the information in there. All right, so gotta go. Got another meeting to meet up. So take care.